Carnotaurs has had a fair amount of depictions in movies, series, and documentaries, some of which are iconic, while others are just rip-offs of those said iconic models. A lot of you Jurassic franchise fans may be fuming from the thumbnail, but I think you will understand once you see the list. While one of the Carnotaurs was taken down by Rexy, who in turn gets taken down by anything her size or slightly larger, some of the Carnotaurs on this list can travel the speed of sound and throw a Spinosaurus hundreds of feet in the air, while others are sauropod-sized. And no, that isn't an exaggeration. By the way, I have read some of your comments suggesting new video ideas, and I will put out a poll for you guys to vote after I upload this video. Another side note, if you guys are interested in anything dinosaur related or theories about animals in general, then hit that like and subscribe button and watch to the end. You can always unsubscribe if you find the content lackluster. With yet another shameless plug over, let's take a look at the strongest Carnotaurs in cinema or television history. It saddens me that a lot of people probably won't know this movie, but for those of you who do know it, I think you know why it's on the list. Turok Son of Stone is a show about a man called Turok who ends up traveling through a cave that leads him into a prehistoric world after he was exiled from his clan when he killed some men from another clan in self-defense. Years later, he is forced to aid the same clan after his nephew Andar tells him his brother is about to be killed by the main villain called Chichak, and long story short, he ends up finding Chichak but soon later follows him through a cave to a prehistoric world after Chichak kidnapped Katari. I know this is supposed to be a Carnotaurus list, but I just have to talk about some of the other creatures like the terror bird that bit a horse's head clean off and the giant Tylosaurus that ate a Elasmosaurus in one bite. Like this thing would put Jurassic Worlds to shame. Anyway, the Carnotaurus first appears after Katori was running away from Chichak, and the thing runs out of a bush, ready to stand on business. The mere scent of this thing caused hundreds of Ankylosaurs to stampede. This is my favorite Carnotaurus design, with its red accents, black body, and just its overall build. It's more slender looking compared to a lot of other Carnotaurus models, but don't let that fool you, this thing is absolutely massive. Similarly to Fang and Primal, its overall size seems to change in different shots. In some scenes, its head alone is bigger than Turok, who is 6 foot. And at this size, it's around 60 feet long and 26 feet tall. Then there are other scenes where it's around 40 feet long, but I'll just say around 50 feet long and 9 tons, which makes it one of the larger Carnotaurs on this list. This thing has incredibly thick skin, with arrows barely being able to pierce through its epidermis. Like most movie dinosaurs or animals in general, it completely ignores the targets that it should, and goes right after the humans that would barely make up for the calories lost, chasing it. So unfortunately there aren't a lot of fighting feats shown on screen with the Carnotaurs other than it probably destroying half a log, but that's not much. However, later in the movie when Turok is captured and knocked out by Chichak and these Neanderthals I guess, his brother's spirit tells him that the Carnotaurus is actually the most feared animal in the entire area, and kills because that was what it was made to do. Now there are a lot of things in that lost world, like the Spinosaurus and raptors, but those aren't really that impressive, but we can assume that they are other large theropods like this Carnotaurus. Later on in the movie, Turok somehow manages to control the Carnotaurus the same way you do in Ark Survival Evolved, and runs through all of the Neanderthals attacking the village, where it is shot by a gun and doesn't even flinch. In the end, the Carnotaurus withdraws from killing Turok and decides to sensibly go after the larger savages. If we put it at its largest size, which is around 60 feet, it pretty much beats all Jurassic franchise theropods. But if we use the 50-foot average, then it would be closer with things such as the Indominus and Spinosaurus. But our boy Toro isn't standing a chance. I will say Toro does have balls of steel for challenging the Indominus Rex and Tarbosaurus, and is incredibly durable. But when the size gap is as big as this one, there just isn't anything that can be realistically done. While Turok's Carnotaurus may be an unknown gem, the next one is one of the most popular dinosaurs shown on television. You know damn well Disney's Carnotaurus was going to be on the list. Like, how could you not expect the Vastatosaurus-sized menaces to not be here? They come from one of Disney's most iconic movies called Dinosaur. To summarize, for those who haven't seen the film, I don't know, it's possible that you didn't see, but for those who didn't, it's about a iguanodon called Aladar that was adopted and raised by these lemur-like primates, and after his original home was destroyed by meteors, he was forced to migrate with a mega herd of different species of herbivores, led by a iguanodon called Kron. The first time we see the Carnotaurus is when it ambushed a herd of different dinosaur species on a nesting site, where in one of the very few times in dinosaur movie history, it ignores the tiny baby Parasaurolophus in front of it, goes straight towards what I assume is a Pachyrhinosaurus, and takes it down easily. In the first scenes we can see just how much this thing dwarfs this Ceratopsian, And if it indeed is a Pachyrhinosaurus, then it definitely shouldn't be that big in comparison. Fun fact, the Carnotaurs was originally supposed to be a T-Rex, which would explain the size, and it was also supposed to talk like the other dinosaur characters in the movie. I guess they withdrew the idea to make the Carnotaurs appear more savage or a mindless killing machines, when they actually showed the opposite. For the remainder of the movie, the Carnotaurs travel in a pair that followed a mega herd of dinosaurs, similarly to the way wolves follow elk and caribou herds. One more thing to note is that this Carnotaurus is larger than the 40 feet long estimate Google says. On Quora and other sites, you can see people doing calculations on this thing's size by using size charts from Sue and comparing the different dimensions and comparing it to a 1.7 meter tall person. The most consistent size for this thing I could find, and from what I've seen from comparing their size with other species in the show, is that they weigh between 10 and 11 tons and more than 50 foot long. If you are asking why it's heavier than Turok's Carnotaurus despite being the same estimated length, it's because of how dense Disney's Carnotaurus is, similar to how T-Rex is heavier than the Giganotosaurus despite the latter being longer. These guys were able to drag iguanodons around as though they were plushies, and one was able to survive tons of debris falling on it from a cave collapsing on it. It did manage to kill one of the Carnotaurs, but the other that did survive had a limp and heavy bruising, which all went away after a couple of days. Either these things can heal like Biscuit Oliver, or they just thug it out after a couple of days. Like the damage this guy took should have had him laid down somewhere waiting for death since it was too hurt to hunt. Part of it may have to do with scavenging, like it did with this dead dinosaur. The next scene of this guy is when he approaches the mega herd who are blocked off in a canyon but holds back when all of them get on the defensive together, which again shows that this isn't some crazed monster out to kill everything without any regard for its safety. It assessed the risk and decided that it wasn't worth it. Like an actual real-life predator, he singles out the animal separated from the herd, which happens to be Crone. The terrifying part about this scene is that he had less center of gravity compared to Crone due to him being bipedal, but this guy somehow manages to shoot up the cliff and corner Crone. This unit grabbed a bull iguanodon, which is already larger than the real-life animal, which is 3.5 tons, and sent him completely airborne. His headbutts and tail smacks alone are able to send animals weighing more than 3 tons in the air. It does end up dying after Aladar pushed it off a cliff and it fell to its death. Like a lot of these quote-unquote dinosaur villains, they were just animals trying to survive. They weren't going Indominus mode and killing things for sport. Regardless if it fought Carnotaurs such as Toro and Terra Nova's Carnotaurus, then it would just be an execution, since he would just pick them up the exact same way he picked out Kron. Against all the other predators of the Jurassic franchise, I'd say it takes the win, except for the Mosasaurus of course. I think only the hybrid's weaponry and intelligence would prove a challenge, but the Carnotaur's bulk and durability would give it the edge against the not even fully grown hybrid. Let me guys know who you think would win in the comments, or if Disney Carnotaurus would get put down. The next Carnotaurus is the smallest on the list, but is by far the most powerful, and could one-shot any others mentioned. A lot of you have been on my case for forgetting Dinosaur King characters in my other list, so I just couldn't leave out Ace, who is not just one of the strongest dinosaurs in his own universe, but also the strongest Carnotaurus out there. So I have not watched Dinosaur King in more than a decade, which is basically half of my life, and as bad as it sounds, I wasn't that into it. At the time, I was into documentaries like the Walking With series and Prehistoric Park. I did watch a few episodes as a kid, but since it was so long ago, I decided to make up for lost time the past 2 days. And man, are these dinosaurs overpowered. Dinosaur King is kind of like Pokemon, where these dinosaurs can be activated by cards and tablets made who knows how long ago. The main characters, Max, Zoe and Rex, who each have their own personal dinosaurs, and try to collect as much dinosaurs as possible to save them from the Team Rocket of this universe, called the Alpha Gang, who wants to collect all the dinosaurs, and for the leader Dr. Z to become the Dinosaur King and rule over all of the dinosaurs. One of the earliest dinosaurs collected is a Carnotaurus called Ace, who was soon Rex's pet or friend to be more accurate. Ace made quite an introduction, with his entrance causing lightning and a small typhoon, and then he immediately runs towards a Spinosaurus much larger than him and throws him hundreds of feet into a pyramid. Right off the bat, I think you all realize that since this is an anime, they are going to have power-ups and abilities that no dinosaur in a real-life setting would, so none of the Jurassic franchise or any other dinosaurs, as a matter of fact, stand a chance against him. Only dinosaurs in his own universe can beat him, and near the end of Season 2, he's one of the strongest, and one of if not the fastest, with this guy being able to move faster than the speed of sound to anime style strike his opponents. This guy is so fast that he is able to create mirages and can take down some of the tanks of the show in a couple of strikes. He's even defeated others like Terry, who is probably only behind the Black T-Rex in terms of power. Some of his power moves are honestly way too overpowered. Ace can summon tornadoes and energy slashes that can clear a city if he was to be used for nefarious purposes. Hell, this guy can shoot power blasts from his mouth like a dragon, which can put down some of the strongest of characters if it hits them. In one of the final fights, him and the other dinosaurs fight the most powerful dinosaur in the series, the Black Rex, who by the way is most definitely at least planetary, if someone wanted to use him for that scale of destruction. It took a 7 deadly sins like combination attack from the most powerful dinosaurs in the series to actually defeat this guy. There isn't really any other shows or even games we can compare Ace with. He simply one-shots any other dinosaur from a different show. As a matter of fact, I think just the sight of him being summoned would cause Rexy or the Indominus to have a seizure. And if he hits any of them with a powered attack, they are just going to get vaporized. After rewatching most of the show, I will be honest, I still can't say it's completely for me. I'm not saying it's a bad show by any means, as I'm sure it's probably what got a lot of you watching into dinosaurs, but for me personally, I think it's just alright. I will say though, I'm not just saying this just because the video is about Carnotaurs, but Ace has the most badass entrance of any other dinosaur, with him being summoned in with red skies and a typhoon. Our last pick for the video doesn't have that much power, but he does have a lot of size. Well, we are once again returning to the Land Before Time universe for the crash outs of the dinosaur world, the Sharp Teeth. If you have never seen or at least heard about the Land Before Time as a child and are into dinosaurs, I think you should be locked up. The Land Before Time is about a baby apatosaurus called Littlefoot and his friends who go on many adventures, and this usually ends up being outside of the Great Valley. The Great Valley is basically a herbivore's paradise and is blocked off from the mysterious beyond, which is where most of the Sharptooth live. In this trilogy, Sharp Teeth can be anything once it eats meat. It can be theropods, crocodiliforms, or even marine reptiles, it doesn't matter. The theropod Sharp Teeth are what most people know about, however, and they are numerous, but none has ever been as big or blood-driven like the original Sharptooth. The Carnotaurs in this universe isn't as big as the original Sharptooth, but he's not far off either. This world's Carnotaurs is simply massive and athletic. He runs and destroys rock formations without even noticing that he broke them, and he is also able to jump from place to place like a ninja turtle, and then jump more than 100 feet, just like the original, to get to his targets. And like most Sharp Teeth, this guy doesn't appear to take fall damage because he immediately just roars and runs after Littlefoot's friends. Mind you, if any megatheropod in real life tried to jump from even 20 feet, their legs would be shattered under the weight and pressure. He is blocked off from them for a while by this large rock structure, but soon breaks through it when he notices the little dinosaurs escaping. While I don't think he was just as big as the original Sharptooth, I don't think he's that far off either, because look at the size of the original next to Littlefoot's mom, who is a full-grown sauropod, and look at the size of the Carnotaurus next to Littlefoot's grandfather. Yes, I know he isn't exactly that big because he's a distance away from Grandpa Longneck, but he isn't that far away, which means he isn't that much smaller. One thing I will say is weird is the way Littlefoot's grandfather and Sarah's father are hiding from this Sharptooth, because these two alone have taken on many different Sharpteeth alone. They even took on Redclaw and his two Utahraptor minions, with Mr. Treehorn being able to drive off Redclaw. Redclaw is supposed to be the main villain Sharptooth in the series, and is a very large T-Rex, but the fact that the duo is willing to take on him and not the Carnotaurus says a lot. Either this guy is in a different league compared to Redclaw, or they just didn't want to take unnecessary risk. In my opinion, I think this Carnotaurus beats all the others on this list, except for Ace of course. And as for any of the Jurassic theropods, I don't even think that's a discussion. First off, he has a decent size advantage, even if he isn't quite as big as the original Sharptooth. And secondly, can you imagine Rexy or the hybrids seeing another theropod like them jumping more than 100 feet right in front of them and just crashing out? Like most other Sharptooth, he also has an ability that can give him the edge. Most Sharpteeth are in an almost constant state of hunger due to where they live and lack of food. Sometimes they even eat each other. This is why you see these massive megatheropod-sized carnivores chasing after Littlefoot and his friends like maniacs, and risking injury for them, even though those little dinosaurs wouldn't even make up for half of the calories they lost trying to catch them. So if that Carnotaurus was hungry, he would have extra motivation for taking on the Jurassic franchise dinosaurs. Alright, that's just about it for this one, folks. Let me know in the comments if I missed out any other Carnotaurs and who you would put instead. Thanks for watching to the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.